Hi there, I'm Kate from Reframing Disability. I'm an educator and also a parent of children with disability, and I'm joined today with Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Kate. I'm a speech pathologist and I've been working helping children transition to school for quite a few years now. So, Kate, how can we prepare our child for the return to school this year?
Well, Julie, as you know, students or children have been away from school for a long time now. So I think we've talked about it before, having the open communication with your child's teacher. But I think the way that you can prepare your child is by re-establishing their relationship with their teacher. So I suggest that parents encourage their child to either make a video for their teacher, write a letter, or give them a card to say that they're so excited to return to school. Just open up those communication networks. Perhaps show your child images of their teacher to refresh their mind. But the good thing that we've spoken about today, Julie, is that children are returning to school knowing their teacher. They have the familiarity with their teacher, they have the familiarity with their classroom, and that probably won't change. Their teaching staff will probably, in most cases, remain the same. Their classrooms will remain the same. It's just other things might in the school community might look a little bit different.
So, Kate, it sounds like that, we'll be able to reassure our children by telling them about the things that'll be the same or almost the same when they go back to school. Are there some things that might look different?
There will be some things in the school environment that look different in that COVID safe environment. The main thing is that their teachers will be wearing masks. This hasn't been mandated prior to now. So teachers will be mandated to wear masks. So their teacher might have just one of those white masks or any mask, or they might have a face shield, a clear perspex face shield, or they might even have a mask that is clear at the mouth for those children that need support visually. But what is the same is that they will have seen people in the community wearing masks. They would have seen their parents wearing masks. They would have seen the shopkeeper wearing masks or the baker wearing masks. So they will be familiar with masks. They just won't be used to masks being on their staff, on their teaching staff. Another thing that's going to look different is there'll be the increase in hygiene. So there'll be increase in hand hygiene. Children will be encouraged to wash their hands more frequently or use hand sanitizer. If your child requires a level of self-care while they're in the school, the person providing that care will be in PPE. So they might have gloves on, mask on, goggles on, and a gown on to support your child. So that will be a little bit different as well. There'll also be active cleaning staff around the school. Cleaners will be coming in, popping in and out, cleaning surfaces and high touch areas. There'll be staggered lunch breaks. So that means that your child may not necessarily be able to play with the children they regularly play with because lunch and recess might be at staggered times. There'll be no assemblies. There'll be no dance, no choir for now. There'll be no excursions. But this isn't completely unfamiliar to a lot of students because they would have experienced it last year. But Julie, one thing that I'm curious about, there are all these changes. How do we communicate these changes to our child?
Well, Kate, parents know their children best. So you know how your child manages change. Some children embrace change and love spotting the differences. If you've got a child that loves things, to be changing and likes all the detail about the differences, you might be able to share some of that with them. If you've got children that prefer things to be the same and really thrive in that environment of stability, it's worth pointing out the things that are the same or nearly the same. And if you're needing to point out that something is different, be cautious about it. For example, the child with the friend in the other year group that has a different playtime. You might want to share that they can still play with that child after school or on weekends, rather than just talking about them having a different playtime. So still
Mm,
always trying to bring it back to what's the same to support your child with their need for that security.
mm. And if your child does have some worries and they are able to communicate that, talk it through. Like Julie said, tune in with them, tune in with their needs. But not all children do or have the skills to be able to verbalize. And parents might actually notice a change in behavior around the time that school's about to start. So this can be observed through changes in sleeping habits, changes in toileting. They might appear hyperactive or quite restless, on edge. They might also be seeking more connection-seeking behaviours. So I think it's so important for parents just to tune in, observe these behaviours, and not, provide opportunities for connection. Provide opportunities to reassure your child that there will be a lot of things at school that are the same, and validate their worries, validate that they can understand, and talk, if you can, with your child about what supports they need and what strategies they feel that could help them have a successful transition back to school. I think one thing that we need to highlight is the need for schedules and creating a visual schedule to support children. One thing that I'll be doing in my family will be creating a calendar in October. Now that we have more concrete dates of return, I'll be putting that on the days that they'll be doing their learning from home, and then the days that they'll be at school. I'm an essential worker, so I have to go into work. So on those days, my child has to go into school. So on our calendar, we have the days that they do learning from home and the days that they do their learning at school. And then it'll have also on the return to school date, a picture of them, maybe a picture of their teacher, and that's the date that they'll be going back to school. I would also encourage parents to connect in with their child, their allied health team, their child's professional health team, if they feel they need further support. They'll be able to provide extra strategies that can help your child. It might be writing a social story. It might be going for a walk up to the school gate to familiarise your child with that environment. It might be having recess at lunch at home in their familiar lunch boxes, or any experience that's going to connect your child with their school and framing all of those connections in a positive light to reduce anxiety about your child returning to school.
That's really important, Kate, because I know, as a mum, um, transition to school was always at the beginning of the year, and I'd done it with my kids so many times I knew what to expect. This one's a bit different, and I think, maybe my anxiety is more heightened, and I'm gonna have to be pretty careful not to share that with the kids.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you make, Julie. A lot of children will have been exposed to COVID through the media. You might have the television on. I know when Gladys was doing her 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock press conference, our TV was off and on. And even though my children weren't watching it, they were absorbing the energy and emotion around the press conference. And that was my energy and emotions around the press conference. So that's something that we've stopped doing. And we've stopped watching the news around our children, because that, by us watching the news, it actually opened up a discussion with me, my partner and I. And then that discussion opened up emotions, and the children were seeing those emotions and then taking those emotions on. So we saw our children responding in that way, and we made the choice to switch the news off. Children are feeling heightened at the moment. They pick up on their parents emotions. And it has been hard, I'm sure, for all parents to maintain that calm, consistent approach with their child. I've had moments, I'm sure our listeners have had moments, Julie.
I think we've all had moments. This has
Yeah,
not been an easy time for anybody.
no. And I think it's acknowledging that. And now that there's an end in sight, just do the planning to support the transition back to school. We have a plan. We didn't have a plan for all those months. So now that we do, we can just try and remain calm and consistent and stable for our children. And then they will feel safe and secure in their home, enabling them to transition back to school successfully.
Oh, that sounds great. So many helpful ideas, Kate. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie.